Hello everyone, my name's Sophie Brown from Cottages Plot, and today we're going to talk about how to fit or look for signs of ill-fitting saddles. So first things first, just to stress, if you're going to buy a horse or a pony, you do need to get a qualified saddle fitter out. I myself am not one, but this is just a little demo on how to look for signs that your saddle may need refitting, or that you can keep your eye on your own signs and symptoms that you need to get the fitter back out. When we first look at a horse, the saddle fitter will advise you, we need to know how big the saddle needs to be, and we do that by feeling for the rib, following the last rib up, and that's the area that the saddle must sit on the horse's back. It's very common, particularly with ponies like Iggy, that are relatively small, that we find really big saddles on small horses, which basically puts excess strain on the horse's back, as it's the rib area that needs to be carrying the saddle and the rider of the horse. So after that, you can almost, then we talk about the gullet of the saddle. So that's where you'll see advertised narrow, medium, wide. So what they do, the saddle fitter does, is they'll put on across the horse's withers a template, which will then give them a measuring and tell you how wide the saddle should be at the front. Once we've done those things and we have a rough idea, we then want to place the saddle on the horse's back. When we're fitting a saddle, we use no saddle cloth. We just put the actual saddle directly on the horse's back so we can get a true kind of image of where it sits on the horse. Some key areas and most common faults are at the front of the saddle. You want plenty of clearance, so this saddle actually fits really well. So we'd want to make sure we've got 4 clear fingers at the front of the saddle. That includes obviously checking now, and then also checking when we put the rider on top that clearance still remains and it doesn't go lower, putting unnecessary strain across Iggy's withers. We then run a hand along here, which should be nice and evenly pressured, and there should be no tight points. Okay, and then finally, when you step away from the saddle, it wants to sit nice and level across the horse's back. If the saddle was too narrow, say, it would sit propped, so it would make our riders sit propped as well and sit a little bit heavy. And what we often find is when the saddle is too wide for the horse, this comes up, which keeps it back, and then as the rider stands up and down, it flaps around on the horse. Once we was happy with that process, we'd then put the girth on, put the saddle cloth on, and then we'd want to see the saddle with a rider on as well, to make sure when our rider gets on the horse, we've still got that clearance at the front.